Yeah.
Because the system, those who created it, ensured that the information that they used was information based on group psychology. You look at the field of social engineering or look at the field of public relations, it's based off of group psychology. And how do we create a certain environment within the group that will lead them to do the same thing, even if it don't make sense.
If all the mothers are on drugs and all the fathers is away,
right?
How did that get like that? Because that don't seem like it was always like that.
Well, I mean, that's what an epidemic was. That's what an epidemic was. But more importantly, putting it in context to what's happening now, to what was happening then, to what happened before.
Got you.
It's not a change. It's a development. A change is when something different happens. A development is when one thing leads to another.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Well, one thing is developed. It's not changed.
It transforms.
It transforms into this next stage.
Okay.
So if you look at what was happening during our time, it was directly preceded by the blaxploitation pimp era and the beginning of crack being brought into the community through the Iran-Contra affair. All of these things occurred during the same period that created the conditions for the gangsta era in the, late 80s, early 90s that we grew up in.
Right.
And then in progression, the people who were raised by people who were using drugs are the parents of the current generation or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, they create an environment where their children wouldn't have to experience what they seen in their own households. So you coming up and you like, I don't want my children, so I'm not, gonna be, addicted to, crack or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's creating a different environment. But since it's in a system, the system is guiding the development process and ensuring that the results of the condition remain the same. So even though you don't have mothers, who were using drugs, you still, who bringing up children that are using drugs, they still allowing their children to be, sucked into immersed into this, this viewpoint, this cultural input that's defining how they think, that's preventing us from changing our condition in any way.
Yeah.
So we don't own, and even with, you got more black millionaires or even some billionaires now, more black people getting it, you still own no more of the wealth than you did in the 80s or the 90s or the 70s or the 60s. Or the,
because the development has progressed in a manner in which it should.
Right. And
the system is working.
The system is working. And it's still pushing out the same worldview that ensures that the pursuit of what's necessary, you will never do that. One time my sister was arguing with the girl next door who used to be her friend, and the whole time they fighting. Now my older sister, she was sitting out there the whole time and she watching her younger sister and the girl next door fight. And then the girl next door, her cousins and stuff, they all out there too. It was like 4 or 5 different one-on-ones, all back to back. But, I'm saying that mentality, from it being in the community, that's reality TV.
Gotcha.
It's the same thing that, they see happening. So it's the same input. Back then we called it gangster. Now they call it gang. It's still the same. So gangster music transform into drill music, same effect. Remember, we look at what just happened with the Chicago drill music, how many of them it killed, and then it spread to Florida and got to killing all them, and it spread to Memphis and it's killing all them, and all based off of the movement of this music. Well, gangster rap did the same thing. Yeah. There was a period in time where we was at it, and to say that it wasn't sparked by that, it was. You know what sparked a lot of gangism in my community?
What's that?
Colors.
Okay, just Colors.
The movie Colors.
Oh, Colors.
Yeah.
Colors.
The movie Colors. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was like brand new to us, a whole new concept. We didn't even understand this concept of people warring because of different colors. Yeah.
See, that's what
that shit wasn't happening. Yeah, that wasn't happening.
What part of the culture? That's it. It's in a movie. It was ingrained in the music. It was fed to us on a high level.
Right.
And we had no other way to consume anything else. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, when it's glamorized, then it becomes it becomes normal. Then when it's glamorized, it becomes attractive.
Okay.
And then the more people that are attracted to it, then it becomes normal. That's why those movies and those songs were popular in every ghetto.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What they did was Hollywood convinced America to pursue the dream of getting money, of chasing money.
Yes.
They did that with early Hollywood films. That was their sole purpose, was to present a glamorous lifestyle to you and make you want it.
Gotcha.
And that's how we able to produce, we able to promote the products that we promoted, because these are status symbols. They become status symbols. That's how Edward Bernays got women to start smoking. He made it cool. He made it a symbol. Even when you think about like cereal and milk or peanut butter and jelly, you have a natural thinking that these are things that go together, but you don't know that was an advertising campaign that convinced you of that. Now just imagine an advertising campaign to convince the American people that cereal and milk are the natural combination. And it started 60, 70, 80, 100 years ago, but it's still prevalent because once that ideal is set and that perception is given, those who it's been given to is going to pass it on. Before the ghettos became what they were, Hollywood gave America this dream, and said, here, pursue this. Now, everybody got it, but not everybody was in the same condition to respond in the same way. If you got the ideal of the pursuit of the dream through getting money and you came from a family that had it already, then there were certain things you didn't have to do in order to get it. Because it's already there. You just figuring out how to use it, or you using it for your consumption. Right. Which is the expression of that dream.
Right.
But if you come from an environment, an economic environment that don't got it, and you receiving this message that you have to be in the pursuit of this and that this status is what's going to say, then now you're going to do whatever you can to do it. Now, what if I say, okay, you should be getting money, and then I give you some crack? Or I give you a basketball.
Absolutely.
I give you a microphone. You should be getting money. Then you're going to do whatever it takes to get it, because you've already been convinced that this is the ultimate expression of your freedom here. It's the dream. It's America. It's the American dream. Everybody wants this. Especially if you don't have it or ain't never tasted it. Then all of this imagery is going to be that much more enticing to you, because it's something that you desire. Who don't want that? Who don't want to be able to buy wherever they can buy, or buy the highest price thing, or, take a trip wherever you want to take a trip to. And just the idea that the acquisition of this is the greatest expression of your freedom, because without it, you ain't going to taste the freedom.
Right.
You finna work this 9 to 5 and he going to tell you, you're going to be struggling to pay bills. And, when you struggle, the more you struggle, the more the system has to intervene to assist you to get through. You know what I'm saying? So the less you can take care of yourself, the less self-sufficient you are, the more the system has to come in and say, okay, we need to.
Right. And then they create that structure for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Which means we're going to set you on the right course to make sure that you play the function that you need to be playing.
And your function is to get out here and get a job.
Right. Get a job and make this economy go.
Absolutely,
right.
yeah.
Absolutely. And, tap into your role as a consumer. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but keep
watching this, keep wanting it.
Right.
And we're gonna keep, like you said, that little dog chasing that little thing at the track.
Right.
They can't never get it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely, bro.
I get it.
So the subculture was created through a worldview. Right? A worldview that they spread through a narrative, that Hollywood and entertainment created. I didn't have to witness it for it to be in place. So that was the storm. And it started back with, the generation before us, with the pimping and, all of that. That set the stage for the subculture, and that's why it was the same wherever it was. Pops used to Pops would work during the week. And then on the weekends, he would ask me, like, well, you want to go this weekend, you know? Because on the weekends, him and his girl, they work all week. They finna go out. They finna kick it. They finna kick it, you know, this whole weekend. Yeah, we get rid of you, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? So definitely, wherever you want to go, you can go. And that's where I would go, you know, to my cousin's house. And when I got there, bro, it's struggle land. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's struggle land, but, you know, it's like direct because when we go outside, you know, we going right into the neighborhood and here go the gang. You know, we go to vice lords. Our older cousins or whatever, they in the gang. So anytime we in the house with them, it's all gang. You know what I'm saying? Like smoking, drinking, and you know what I'm saying? All of these different things that were normal because it wasn't just happening here. We leave here, anywhere else we go, we're gonna encounter the same thing. You know, from different people, but it's the subculture. What's up, you know? Bro, I remember one time we went to this lake in Racine called the Quarry Lake, right? And we met a group of dudes from another side of town or whatever who were just as bad as we were. You know what I'm saying? And they was trying to pick on us, bro. And it turned into like this whole, but bro, I'm telling you, none of us are older than 14, 15 years old, man. But, you know, they tough, and then they GDs. And we vice lords, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, as we leaving, and they leaving with us, and the whole time it's like them kind of following us to find a reason to kick some stuff off. But I'm just saying that to say that this group of dudes was literally just like us.
Literally.
How? We all got our own minds.
Yeah.
You know, how do we all have the same worldview where this is normal to us?
Yeah.
It was being manufactured, bro. You know, and why is it a coincidence that the worldview that we have here is modeled in the rap music we listen to? What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So were we acting that way because of what we seen, or is what we seen reflecting the way that we was acting?
Yeah.
Either way it go, it was universal.
Yeah.
Right? And the only way that multiple people will do the same if they have the same ideas.
Yeah.
Which that idea had to be put into your mind that this was something cool and normal to do. Not just normal, but cool.
Yeah, program.
You know? Yeah, it was pro.
Yeah.
You and I know, like, elementary school, middle school, bro, you had to know how to fight, man.
Yeah.
If you ain't know how to fight, like, they would literally, you know, they would misuse you. You know what I'm saying? You'll be a victim.
Yeah.
You know, you'll be a victim out here, man. You had to scrap. And how many times we heard that in the raps or whatever?
Yeah.
When it's group, and that's where the system really is really, that's where we can really pinpoint the effectiveness of the system.
Yeah.
Because the system, those who created it, ensured that the information that they used was information based on group psychology. You look at the field of social engineering or look at the field of public relations, it's based off of group psychology. And how do we create a certain environment within the group that will lead them to do the same thing, even if it don't make sense. We talked about the Red Summer of 1919 where these lynchings was happening, right? These weren't individuals doing this. This was mass, you know, groups. A mob was a whole bunch of people being motivated by the same energy to do something based on an idea that had been put into their mind that as long as everybody else around me is doing this, then it justifies it. You know what I'm saying? That's the basis of the group psychology, man. You know, we've seen like the thing where they come into the room for an interview and they standing up when the bell, the first people stand up when the bell go off, and then as more people come in, they mimicking the behavior of those three, even though they don't know why it's being done. They just doing it because it's group psychology. And those who created the system, they mastered group psychology. You know, not for the sake of understanding, but for the sake of control. You know, they didn't study man to understand him. They studied man to control him. And that's what they implemented, you know, in the system. And that's why it was so effective. And, you know, people might shun our behavior, but they practice the same behavior, but on their levels, you know, within a society. No matter what your income level is, there's a group worldview that you share on that level that, defines a lot of what you do. Look at sports, it's just like how you rally behind, this team, and then you got, the clothing, certain clothing, that they wear that creates a group psychology here, to where this is something that, and even to the point to where, your team can lose and y'all finna go tear it up. Mm-hmm. Everything in a society is group oriented like that, to put you in some type of box that can determine and control, your behavior. And when you come from the hood where there's an economic condition where there's a complete lack, it's real easy for that subculture to become criminal. The hood is just amplified in America for a very particular reason. That's why it's so easy to criticize or critique what happens there, because we use this as a, to create so many narratives, that there's a lot of spotlights on it, so that we can maintain these narratives across the board. And then therefore, the people got something to, look down on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the hood nigga is just as American as, the rich one, or just as American as, the 9-to-5 worker or the wage laborer or the professional, college graduate, or, these are all models that were created in America, and they all play a function in ensuring that those who benefit the most continue to benefit, regardless of what your status is in it. Mm-hmm. Whether you on the streets committing crimes, or you in a corporate setting brokering deals, or you in the middle class going to work and fueling whatever industry it is that you're a part of. It's all the same thing within one system, and the streets is not a deviation from that. Mm-hmm. It's the fundamental part of it. You know what I'm saying? If anything, that's the bottom of the pyramid. Mm-hmm. But still the pyramid,
Right.
So